week's lock, we're going to look at Gyaku Tekubi, which is another standing arm lock from judo. Gyaku Tekubi is a bent arm lock, so it's kind of the same nature as ude-garame. To apply Gyaku Tekubi, I want to keep control of the wrist, and I want the elbow bent. So I can either palm the elbow and use my hand to lift up, or I can just use my forearm to cut as I lift. And some people do it with two hands. I don't think that's a great idea because, again, if we're not doing things to distract him, that other hand's coming in, which means I need this hand to act in an offensive manner. A couple other points for Gyaku Tekubi is when I'm taking this, like last week's video, I want to set myself off on the oblique. I don't want to stand right in front here, so he's got 3 other weapons, 4 if he's going to start using his head to try and counter me when this is happening. Once I get my position, I want to blade off to the side so I have a nice range to bring the lock into effect, and I'm further away from the other weapons while I can still maintain contact with him. Gyaku Tekubi can be used as a come-along. If I'm doing it as a come-along, again, my position should be flanked to the outside. We're not going to keep it too long because it's uncomfortable, and again, I don't want to be wrecking Mike's shoulder because we've got more filming to do. I want to make sure that anytime I'm doing a come-along or using any device like that, so whether it's an arm lock, wrist lock, fingers, whatever, that he is up on his toes. If he is not up on his toes, I am not safe. So I want to make sure that he is up on his toes and I can lock him. If he's up on his toes and he starts coming around, again, I disengage and I get someplace else. So we take it to the next higher level. So for a come along, it does have an option, but again, it's something that needs to be addressed from a safe position to where you're not for threat of counterattack. If we're using this to affect throws from a judo standpoint, I can think of this as several different things. If I can take the angle stepping across, I can use this for a load for a taiotoshi, which is not going to be a good fall for him, which is why we don't throw it. I can use this to bring him around. So if he starts coming around, I can take the oblique and I'm in a good position for an osotogari. Some of the concepts for Gyaku Tekubi if it starts to fail. So you should anticipate which direction or how he's going to try and get out of this so that you can maintain fluid movement and not be fixated on trying to make this work and, in essence, start taking shots. If the arm starts to straighten, like we talked about last week, I transition right into a straight lock. So this would be Kanuki Gatami, and we'll be talking about this in depth more next week. If the arm starts to straighten, I'm going to keep the forearm in the same place. It's going to cut up underneath the elbow at the tricep tendon. I can use my other hand to strike or to post, and I'm just like I'm choking the arm, making the arm lock there. If I'm in here and for whatever reason he starts to come over with that, I can again just turn, and now I have a variation of ude-gatame. So if the arm starts to turn or he starts coming over that way, again, this could also be a punch. So think of the break being the punch. If I punch towards his face, it cuts the line of the elbow and hyperextends the elbow. I can also change the angle to punch the floating ribs, which sets me up for a nice position with my right hand as a straight. Looking at the lock as the strike from Gyaku Tekubi, as I pivot, just like I would to throw a hook into the body, I'm doing the hook, but the arm is in the way. So you get a 2-for-1 deal here. So I can come through, I can also blast the hip, which is going to put him at a lower position, making this more effective and putting more torque into the shoulder that way. This also sets up for a counter strike. I strike 1, I strike 2. So I'm leading him around. And again, I can change weapons depending on range and targeting. So when you're experimenting with these locks, your position and your footwork is very important because you need to be able to set up those counter strikes. You need to be mobile if this doesn't work, which in reality, you may get a bite of it, but it may not pass through. It may not catch. So you may not get the lock. You may just get a change in position, and I need to be moving to get to my next technique, as it were. So a template you can use for experimenting with application or integration into your system. We're going to use the concept from Jiu-Jitsu of Nagas, and that's basically to let his hand or his strike continue on its own path. So I'm going to just keep my hands up again like a guard, and I'm going to slip. And at the same time, I'm going to hit the face. As his hand starts to come back, I'm going to make a shuto type motion. So instead of going to the neck, like you may traditionally do, I'm going to cut behind his arm to the shoulder. I'm going to continue that motion to ensnare the arm and turn coming through. So again, this can come through to the ribs. This one comes through to the face for the counter. So I'm opening him up. I'm taking this one off the line so I don't have to worry about other targets, or other weapons rather, coming in towards me. The same if he comes in. This is simultaneously. Naturally, he's going to try and drop his arm back. He's going to try and draw it back in. He's not going to let it hold. I'm just going to try and capture that space in between where his arm is closing the angle. That's where the shuto goes in. As the shuto goes in, I can take the strike, which again is going to help me to affect the lock. So just in a concept to start to work into how this might fit in. Everybody's got an outward block. Everybody's got a basic cover. So it depends on your method, but these are accessible from strikes and blocks for nearly every system if you know where to look.